Hello and welcome to another episode here on my channel. My name is ChaosMole and today we talk about the big PvP changes which came with the latest winter update in Lost Ark in South Korea. Keep in mind this might change for the Western release, but I think those are more or less overall changes, and those changes were needed. Lost Ark is mostly a PvE game, and PvP was always the second fiddle, and the developer wants to change that. Especially in 2022, it seems like that they will focus more on the PvP aspects and even new content, and this patch is the first step in that direction. And no, there's no new content here, but there is a lot of changes which are now coming to the game. So let's get right into it and let's have a look. The first and big change is the bracket system. If you are playing ranked, you are ending up in the bracket and then you are fighting up, or, well, if you're losing, down the ladder. And before those changes, the biggest problem was that Lost Ark didn't have a lot of wiggle room in those brackets. And let me just show you this so that you better understand it. Those are the old numbers. And you can see, especially in Platinum, you only had 199 points in both directions to raise or fall down the ladder. And it was always 199 points in silver, gold, platinum, even diamond, right? Like if you wanted to raise in those ladders or fall, then you had to lose or to win 199 points. The problem was there was not a lot of wiggle room. That is not a lot of points by any consideration. Like I have seen South Korean players starting in diamond on Monday, and then by the end of the week, they were falling down to gold. And then next week, they were ending up in master. I was like, what? How is this even possible? Well, because you didn't have a lot of wiggle room and you would fall and raise too quickly. So they smoothed this out a little bit more and now make it so that you actually have some wiggle room between a win or loss and you will not feel that instantly. And I can say good, because let's be real here. We all have bad days. We all have good days. And sometimes it would suck pretty much that when you lose your bracket quickly just because you had a bad day, right? Nobody really wants that, and they can be disheartening. So glad that they're actually adding this and making some changes to that. Now the next big change, which they also made to the game, is your PvP stats. Before this, you had to allocate 1,250 PvP stats. And what most people did, they added them to two specific stats in the game. The one was that you would do more damage to somebody who was in CC. And, well, the second stat was movement speed. And that doesn't really change. But the problem with that is, especially with the DPS stat, is that people die too quickly. It's as simple as that, especially new players. If you would run into an unfortunate combo, or like you were just unlucky that you run into a certain CC move, you could die in like mere seconds, and it wasn't really fun. So what they are doing now is that the maximum points you can allocate was reduced to 1,000 instead of 1,250, and the maximum points you can allocate into one stat was removed from 1,000 to 750. Again, this is to help out that you are staying alive a little bit longer. For the high-end PvP players, not much is changing because people just know how to play their class now, and more importantly, how to kill somebody in a CC chain combo, whereas the newer players sometimes could just get deleted and it wasn't really fun for them. So glad that they're doing those changes, and it should help quite a bit. Now the next thing is not really like a PvP change in itself, but it is a specific PvP change, but it's not really a stat change, but it would help a lot to balance the game, and they will increase the field of view in PvP by 10%. Or, to explain it in another way, you can zoom out 10% more. And that is very important, because a lot of abilities in PvP are sometimes larger than your actually field of view. And so you had to guess where the shots were coming from, where the enemy was coming from, and you couldn't really react to it. Like, it was not a moment of, oh, okay, I see the enemy preparing the special ability, I should probably dodge. And it was more like a, is the enemy doing this ability which could hit me over here? Oh yeah, it does. Okay, I'm dead. Right? That wasn't really fun. That wasn't really interesting. It wasn't really like skill. It was literally just doing guesswork if somebody was preparing an ability or not. And now you can zoom out 10% more. And people are already reporting that it can make a big difference for them. And that's nice to hear. Also, this is kind of interesting. Evasion, if you don't know what evasion is, it's basically the RNG dodge chance. You have a random chance to dodge like certain abilities or attacks, and before that it was a full evade. It is not anymore. So it is instead now a 99% damage decrease, and CC and dots will apply though. So that is a pretty significant change, and it shouldn't be as frustrating as it was before, because you literally had moments where you would prepare like a special ability or even like a CC ability on an enemy. They just had RNG luck and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And that's not really fun, right? Especially when you were working with a team and you were like, okay, prepare for my CC, then go in. You use the CC, doesn't hit. People go in and die because they were relying on that CC to hit, and it didn't happen. So, good change there. I think that's just better, right? Also, very interesting, the knock-up height for certain abilities was now normalized, and it is always the hunter class when it comes to the knock-up height. What is that supposed to mean? Well, in PvP, everyone has abilities which can knock you up into the air, right? It's pretty simple. But depending on the class, you could get knocked up higher. And then, of course, it would take longer till you're falling down and land on the ground. That was important for like certain effects or, well, how long the CC lasts. And they now choose to normalize this, and everyone now has the knock-up height of the hunter, which is in between. Like, the hunter seems to be the midpoint. The old warrior was always like the highest, and the magician was the lowest. So they choose to go with the midpoint, and yeah, I think that's a good change. Normalizes a lot and doesn't give like certain classes certain advantages in PvP. Also, the maximum mana regeneration has been increased by 3% for all classes, which is nice, especially for the classes which are sucking up a lot of mana. Nothing is more awkward when you survive and you are actually playing well, and then you're running out of mana and you're standing there and you cannot really do much, and the better choice would have been to get murdered. And I think that shouldn't be the choice, right? If you are playing as well as you did to survive, to kill enemies, to use your abilities, you're basically getting punished for that because you are running out of your mana. And that's not really what you want. Also, which is very interesting, all buffs, which brings us back to the knock-up height, all buffs now apply regardless of height. So there were abilities for your team which sometimes couldn't hit because you were up in the air. And that was so frustrating. Like, there were literally characters which were just, or players which were just waiting for the buffs before they get pulled, knock up the players, and they wouldn't get the buffs in the air. And you couldn't really do anything about it. Like, it was frustrating and it wasn't really fun. Like, you might say, oh yeah, that's skill, right? If somebody is managing that, that should be rewarded. Yeah, but it wasn't really, because it was also mostly random, because most of the buffs are instant. So it was, again, literally a random thing. But it could mean to win or lose. Like, let's say a shield, right? You're using a shield from a paladin or from a bard, and then that shield wouldn't be delivered because you were knocked up in the air, and you would get screwed badly by the enemy players. So yeah, it was a lot of random, and I don't think that was necessary. So glad that they actually removed that. Also, there also have been big buffs to non-ranked PvP rewards, like great mats, but there also have been nerfs to the ranked rewards, and it seems like they have now removed costumes, and you are now getting stronghold items, so your housing items instead. And people are not happy about that. So instead of getting like a really cool costume, like a really cool arena skin, which you could show off and what you have managed, you're now getting like a trophy for your housing. And it's like, cool. So nobody will ever see that besides of like my guild members and my friends. And I basically lose my bragging rights a bit. So yeah, as you can imagine, people are not, I repeat, not happy about that. And I'm curious if they will keep this or if they will make some changes at some point. There has been also some class changes. So the Berserker got buffed, like all the, not all of them, but Diving Slash, Windblade, and Swordstorm got their cooldowns reduced. From what I've heard, some people were a little bit concerned about the health of the Berserkers in PvP. They had too many moments where they couldn't really do anything, even if they had some really smart combos and used all their skills correctly. Like, some high skill players were concerned that they just, couldn't do anything for a few seconds and would just stand around, and it feels very awkward, especially for Berserkers. So yeah, seems like they have now buffed the Berserker a little bit, and that should help. The Holy Knight got nerfed. This was to be expected. Like, the Holy Knight is one of the 2 support classes in Lost Ark right now, and because of that, they are very strong in the arena. Now, I have to say though, the nerfs are not very big. Like, the HP coefficiency was reduced by 0.1, so from 2.1 to 2.0. That's like, whatever. Like, nobody cares. Like, seriously, nobody cares. But Godsend Law and Rufion's Word got their cooldown increased by 5 seconds. And that is quite significant. Like, 5 seconds, if you're just counting that down, especially in PvP, that can be quite a bit. And that's a significant nerf for that ability, at least. Will not really change anything in the arena. Like, the Paladin is still like a must-have, especially in the higher brackets of arena fights. And yeah, that will not change. Like, Paladin is a thing you will still see nearly every match in the arena. It's as simple as that. The Infighter / Scrapper here in the West got buffed. The Ore Shock, which is a green ability, got their skill damage increased by 9.5%. So that's a nice buff there. The Soulmaster / Soulfist, the Windhall Blast is no longer a hard CC. Well, it is. No, let me rephrase that. It will not make you hard CC / stagger immune anymore. So that got nerfed. Yeah, you're not getting like your stagger CC immunity anymore through that ability. The same goes for the Lancemaster, which has the Scent of the Moon, and that is also no longer providing you stagger hard CC immunity. And then, also very interesting, the same goes for the Crescent Moon, same thing, and the cooldown was increased by 5 seconds. So, that's tough. And they're also noting that apparently the patch notes seem to be incorrect. Crescent Moon is on an 18-second cooldown, but it seems like they mean actually Eclipse Path. So it seems like they switched something up in the patch notes. But that's still a significant nerf. Yeah. The Scouter got also nerfed. The Laser Gun got their cooldown increased by 4%. The Kamikaze drones also got their cooldown increased by 4%. And that makes sense. The Scouter is definitely one of the stronger PvP classes right now in the arena. Like, I see a lot of like Korean PvP players on YouTube or on streams playing the Scout because he has a lot of maneuverability, lots of close quarter combat fight abilities, and is quite strong. So, understandable. Let's talk about the Reaper. And the Reaper is kind of interesting. The Reaper got buff nerfed. That's a weird word. So the All Raid, which is a red skill, got their damage increased by 10%. So good for you. Unfortunately, Shadow Trap got significantly nerfed, and they got their cooldown increased from 14 to 20 seconds. Like, again, that's a lot. That's a lot. The Battle Master, or War Dancer being called here, the inner key composition with Final Whisper Pod will now change the color to red when its duration is nearly expiring. This is an indirect nerf because now you can see when that thing is disappearing and people know, I just have to wait a little bit longer and then that ability is gone. So it's not really like a stat nerf, but it's readability, and from a readability perspective, this is a nerf. But that's it. Those are all the changes which came with this PvP update. Keep in mind, this is not the end of it. They are actually planning much more changes are coming. We don't really know how many of those changes will also be active the moment the game is coming here to the West. But what we have seen so far, it seems like that when Lost Ark is coming here to the West, we will be pretty much up to date when it comes to all the balance, but not when it comes to content. So yes, we are getting all the balance and update changes and quality of life updates, but not necessarily the content immediately. I think that's fine. We will still have enough to do. But that was it from me. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you're on your way out, I would appreciate if you might leave a like. If you are also new to the channel, you want to see much more Lost Ark content, which is coming, like we are getting closer to the release, and there will be much more Lost Ark than we already have on the channel. I would appreciate if you might consider to subscribe to the channel. If you ever want to catch me live, like playing Lost Ark and doing PvP when the game is getting closer here in the West, you can find me on trovo.live/ChaosMole. The link will be in the video description. No, it's not Twitch. And you can find me there from Monday to Friday, starting at 9 AM ET with Mole in the morning in the gaming news. And then we are playing some video games. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.